turbulent relationships and unexpected revelations. Serenity vented her frustration about Zachary's behavior, claiming that he doesn't treat her as a family either. She criticized his hypocrisy, demanding transparency but failing to reciprocate. Serenity mentioned their recent argument and how Zachary hung up on her and ignored her messages, comparing his behavior to that of a petty person. Mrs. Lane remained speechless, acknowledging the accuracy of Serenity's assessment. She understood Zachary's domineering nature, shaped by his upbringing as the successor of the York Corporation. In his family and company, he's used to being in control and having others defer to him. However, Serenity's independent nature clashed with Zachary's expectations, and he felt neglected and excluded. Serenity questioned whether Zachary was completely honest with her. Serenity expressed her frustration and vowed to stop contacting Zachary, believing he may have even deleted her contact information. She asked Mrs. Lane to keep track of how long their Cold War would last and expressed her willingness to move on without him. Mrs. Lane suggested that Zachary was upset because he felt Serenity didn't pay enough attention to him. Serenity decided to focus on eating and put Zachary out of her mind. She consumed multiple sandwiches, pancakes, and coffee, worrying Mrs. Lane about her overeating. Serenity assured her that she had a large appetite and blamed her anger for eating a bit more. Despite that, she still had a headache and sore eyes. Serenity searched for the home first aid kit, explaining her discomfort to Mrs. Lane. Mrs. Lane retrieved the medicine box, and Serenity took a painkiller for her headache. Mrs. Lane reminded her to use the medication sparingly due to its side effects. Serenity assured her that she only took it occasionally for headaches caused by poor sleep. After taking the medication, Serenity prepared to leave the house, intending to go to the store. Mrs. Lane planned to mop the floor and said she would take a cab later, but secretly intended to call Zachary once Serenity left. Serenity left the house while Mrs. Lane continued to mop the floor. Once Serenity entered the elevator, Mrs. Lane returned inside and immediately called Zachary. He didn't answer initially, so she called him 3 more times with no response. Finally, she sent him a message informing him that Serenity had taken medicine. In less than a minute, Zachary called Mrs. Lane back, sounding nervous and concerned. He asked about the medicine Serenity had taken. Mrs. Lane explained that Serenity had taken a painkiller for her headache and sore eyes due to poor sleep. Zachary's thoughts raced, assuming that Serenity had taken pills and attempted suicide. Mrs. Lane quickly reassured him that Serenity had a cheerful personality and would never do such a thing, especially not because of him. She reminded him that he shouldn't think so highly of himself. Mrs. Lane advised Zachary to reflect on why he likes Serenity and to accept her for who she is instead of trying to change her. She reminded him that he hasn't been completely open with her either, hiding his true identity. Zachary's expression darkened, questioning whose side Mrs. Lane was on. She reassured him that she was on his side and only wanted him to be happy. Mrs. Lane mentioned that Serenity had sent him messages, but he didn't reply, which resulted in their current Cold War. Zachary remained silent, often avoiding replying to messages when he was in a bad mood. Mrs. Lane encouraged him not to focus on changing Serenity but to consider changing himself for her. Zachary asked if Serenity was still angry, to which Mrs. Lane didn't respond. He expressed his frustration, claiming that he was the only one enraged while Serenity seemed unaffected and sleep well. Mrs. Lane remained speechless, realizing that Zachary indeed had a short temper. Zachary ended the conversation, stating that he was busy and not to disturb him unless something important occurred. Mrs. Lane sighed, understanding that the couple's relationship was still not deep enough, considering their marriage of convenience. She acknowledged that Serenity and Zachary were still getting to know each other, unlike other newlyweds who typically experience a honeymoon phase at the beginning of their marriage. When Serenity arrived at the store, she saw Josh coming out and waving goodbye. She knew he had been talking to Jasmine. Josh greeted Serenity politely, but they didn't have much to talk about, considering their relationship as friends of her husband. Serenity smiled back but remained reserved due to her knowledge of Josh's true identity. After their brief exchange, Josh got into his car and drove away. Once Josh was gone, Serenity entered the store and noticed a large bouquet of 99 roses on the cashier's desk. Next to it was a bag filled with Jasmine's favorite snacks and few sets of her preferred skincare products. Jasmine, sitting at the cash register with Sunny in her arms, shared some snacks with him. When Serenity entered, Jasmine smiled and mentioned the abundance of snacks delivered by Josh, expressing that they wouldn't get bored while watching the store. Sunny greeted Serenity, his attention still focused on the bag of snacks in Jasmine's hand. Jasmine fed him a cracker from the bag, but she cautioned him not to eat too much as it might affect his appetite for a proper meal later. Serenity observed the snacks and skincare products, teasing Jasmine about how well Josh knew her preferences. She contrasted it with her own husband, Zachary, who never bought her snacks or sent her skincare products, except when he claimed they were for Sunny. Jasmine acknowledged that Josh's background in dealing with the information made her an open book to him, while she would struggle to learn much about him unless he chose to share. They agreed that people from such backgrounds excelled in prying into others' lives while protecting their own privacy. Serenity joked that Jasmine seemed to be losing interest in Josh, while he was becoming more interested in her, evident in the large bouquet he hand-delivered. Serenity couldn't help but compare it to Zachary's lack of romantic gestures like sending her 99 roses. Jasmine explained that it wasn't that she hated Josh, but she felt like she didn't have privacy when he was around. She found Josh eloquent, polite, and attractive, leaving a good first impression. However, they had only met a few times, and Jasmine wasn't particularly fond of him. Serenity advised her to take things slowly and only think about the future when genuine feelings developed. Jasmine expressed concern about Zachary's job, fearing it might be affected if she rejected Josh. She had tried searching for news about Josh online but found limited information, knowing only his position in York Corporation. Finally, Jasmine gathered the courage to ask Elisa about Josh. She discovered that if Josh truly wanted to harm someone, that person would suffer a fate worse than death. He had a method of slowly causing them to lose everything, bit by bit, and experience despair one step at a time. Knowing this, Jasmine became worried that rejecting Josh might provoke his anger and lead to consequences for Zachary instead. However, she reassured Serenity that she would give it a try without forcing herself. Serenity's expression turned resentful when Jasmine mentioned the incident at the Stone residence involving Olivia and Chelsea. She cursed the entire Brown family silently, as their actions had led to another fight between her and Zachary. Serenity recognized that conflicts with Zachary were inevitable given his character, and she wondered how many more fights they would have until their sharp edges softened. Jasmine suggested going to the bar for drinks after work, to which Serenity agreed. Jasmine jokingly remarked that Serenity had the courage to go out when Zachary was away on a business trip and couldn't control her. Serenity asserted her independence, stating that she could go wherever she wanted even if Zachary were home. Sensing something was amiss in Serenity's tone, Jasmine cautiously asked if Serenity had fought with her husband again, but Serenity didn't elaborate. Meanwhile, at Lewis & Co., Duncan attempted to call Zachary, but his friend didn't answer. Zachary's delayed response to Duncan's message with a brief "I'm busy" indicated that he was too preoccupied to take calls. Duncan believed this was the consequence of his behavior the previous night, and it affected his focus on work. After some consideration, he instructed his secretary to summon Liberty Hunt from the finance department. The notice to see Duncan caused everyone in the finance department to look at Liberty. Many sympathized with her situation as a woman and admired her handling of the divorce. However, those who disliked Liberty criticized her, suggesting that she was trying to take advantage of Duncan's assistance to build connections. As Liberty left the office, she overheard her colleagues mocking her, causing her to pause in her steps. After overhearing her colleagues spreading rumors about her and Duncan, Liberty returned to the office and confronted the person responsible. The colleague was caught off guard and denied spreading rumors. Liberty clarified that she had no interest in Duncan and that her divorce was due to her ex-husband's infidelity. She warned the colleague that she would sue for slander if the rumors persisted and walked away, leaving the woman visibly flustered. The others in the office witnessed the confrontation and listened to Liberty's words, feeling as though she had issued a warning to them as well. They realized there were too many rumors circulating about her and considered the consequences of facing a lawsuit for slander. Liberty approached Duncan's office with a cold expression. Duncan expressed concern about her injuries, but Liberty assured him that they would heal in a couple of days. Liberty asked if he needed something. Duncan explained that he wanted to inquire about Serenity's situation. Liberty initially misunderstood and mentioned that her sister was already married. Duncan clarified that he knew about Serenity's marriage and mentioned the incident from the previous evening, which had upset Zachary. He was worried that the couple would fight because of his slip of the tongue. Concerned, he reached out to Liberty to gather more information. Liberty assured Duncan that Serenity was fine, as she was still sleeping when Liberty left for work. Duncan noticed that Liberty appeared unhappy when she arrived earlier and asked if she had a fight with her colleagues. Liberty remained silent, her face cold and expressionless. Duncan acknowledged that he may have made things difficult for Liberty by personally hiring her, but he advised her not to worry about what others say and to focus on her own work. However, Liberty expressed her desire to resign. When asked why, she explained that she had been targeted and treated unfairly since she joined the company, facing accusations of entering through the back door and coveting Duncan. She did not want to harm his reputation and intended to start her own business. Duncan reassured her that he would handle those spreading rumors and emphasizing her capabilities and value to the company. He is willing to take action against anyone who tried to undermine her. Despite Duncan's support, Liberty insisted on resigning, mentioning that she had received money from Hank and planned to invest in opening a small shop and restaurant. Duncan then offered her a storefront on Westring Avenue, a street near their office where he owned many shops. He suggested that it would be suitable for Liberty to open her restaurant there. Liberty was surprised to learn that Duncan owned half of the shops on that street. Duncan explained that he purchased the additional stores as investments, and he usually hired someone to manage them. He mentioned that an old couple would be moving out soon, and he could rent the storefront to Liberty if she was serious about starting her own business. Liberty was speechless, realizing the wealth and business acumen of the rich. She remembered Aunt Audrey's comment about Duncan's ability to make money, which she found to be accurate. Duncan offered Liberty a discounted rent for a shop on Westring Avenue, knowing it was a bustling street with high business potential. He suggested a monthly rent of $8,000, which was cheaper than the standard rate. Liberty was grateful and promised to keep it a secret. Duncan reassured her that he had already earned back his investment in the stores and encouraged her to focus on her business. He mentioned the possibility of increasing the rent once Liberty had regained her capital. Liberty agreed and expressed her intention to resign and notify her superior. Duncan assured her that the contract would be arranged and mentioned his support for her breakfast store. After Liberty left, Duncan informed Zachary about the situation and received a simple thanks in response, relieving his worries. In another office, Hank faced criticism from his boss for client cancellations, partnership suspensions, and quality control issues, leaving him speechless. Hank, a trusted and successful employee at Waltham Electronics, faced a crisis as all the orders he had secured were either cancelled or suspended. The boss confronted Hank, questioning if he had offended any clients. Hank defended himself, stating that he always prioritized the clients and would try his best to salvage the orders. However, the boss believed that Waltham Electronics was deliberately being suppressed by a branch of York Corporation, resulting in a loss of business. Hank struggled to identify who might be behind the suppression and assured his boss that he hadn't offended anyone. After the meeting, Hank returned to his office, where Jessica offered him a cup of water. He shared his conversation with the boss and expressed his confusion about who he might have offended. Just then, he received a call from Olivia, asking him to pick up Sunny from Serenity's store. Upon learning about Liberty's wealthy aunt, Olivia felt remorseful for encouraging her son to divorce. She had hoped that he could benefit from the family's connections and potentially earn a substantial income. However, her attempts to reconcile Hank and Liberty were met with rejection. Olivia then turned her attention to her grandson, Sonny, and planned for Hank to pick him up frequently, creating more opportunities for Hank and Liberty to interact and possibly reconcile. Hank, however, remained committed to Jessica and their future plans, disregarding his mother's suggestions. He assured Jessica of his love and loyalty and dismissed his mother's regrets over Liberty's newfound wealth. Hank agreed to accompany Jessica to meet her parents and discuss their marriage plans. Meanwhile, Serenity focused on her craftwork and kept her distance from Zachary, not revealing the conflicts they were facing. Serenity didn't want her sister, Liberty, to worry about her, so she put on a normal facade. Liberty expressed relief that Serenity and Zachary hadn't fought over something trivial. Little did she know that they did have a minor quarrel, but Serenity didn't feel at fault and didn't want to initiate reconciliation. Liberty planned to take Sonny and start planning for her store. Serenity arranged for Mrs. Lane to accompany them, as Sonny could be mischievous in a familiar environment. Mrs. Lane had hoped to find out which bar Serenity was going to with Jasmine, but Serenity redirected her to follow Liberty instead. Mrs. Lane took them home and seized the opportunity to message Zachary about the bar outing. However, Zachary was exhausted and asleep, so he didn't respond. In the evening, after the busy rush at the bookstore, Jasmine suggested going to Neon Nights, a popular and lively bar. Serenity agreed, but both of their expressions changed when they heard a familiar voice calling out to them. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Voice Novel, and follow Voice Novel on Facebook, so you will get notified whenever a new video is uploaded. Thank you.